Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you love creepy true stories and unsettling Reddit mystery, you are in the right place. Today's story comes from our nosleep. It starts with simple question. Why has my neighbor's front door been open for 2 days? Begin as an ordinary act of concern, turned into one of the most chilling discoveries I've ever read. So, dim the light, grab your snack, and let's dive into the story. My neighbor's front door has been wide open for 2 whole days. Since it was a sunny Friday afternoon, I didn't think much of it at first. It was 5:30 and I had just returned home from work. When I saw that my neighbor's front door was open, I assumed she was simply unloading something from her car. I went inside my own house and went through my usual after work routine, going for a run, then making dinner for my wife, Alicia, and me. It was only in the evening that I it was only in the evening that I began to suspect something was wrong. I was taking our dog, Bailey, out for her final walk of the day. It was twilight, my favorite time of the outdoors. I have always enjoyed strolling around the block with Bailey in the last precious moment when there is still enough light to see the horizon. I put Bailey harness on her as she excitedly hopped around. Then the two of us stepped out into the cool night. After a few seconds, I looked up and noticed the door of my neighbor's house, the one directly across the street, was still wide open. Also strange was the fact, despite her car being in the driveway, the house was completely dark, not a single light on the inside. I crossed the street. My neighbor is 20 something, named Isabella. She seemed like a sweet girl, but we aren't exactly good friends. Sometimes I give her lemon from our tree in exchange for fig, and that's pretty much the extent of our relationship. Still, the sight of the open door made me uneasy. What if she had some kind of medical emergency and was currently unconscious, or worse, on the floor of her entryway? After a few steps up the driveway, the leash in my hand went taut. Looking down, I saw Bailey had seated herself firmly on the ground, refusing to budge, even as I called her name and tugged on her leash. Her ears were pricked up, her eye fixed on the house like she's waiting for something. So she wasn't growling. I was unnerved by her alert posture and her refusal to walk any closer to the door. I let my voice close the distance between us and my neighbor's threshold. Isabella, it's Brian from across the street. Can you hear me? For a moment there was silence. Then, just as I was about to drop Bailey's leash and walk up the steps of the house, there came a voice from the dark. Hey, Brian, she said, before coughing once, then clearing her throat. Sorry, I'm in the middle of a dinner here. What's up? I breathed a sigh of relief. Hey, sorry, I just saw that your front door was open. Wanted to make sure. Strangely, there came another long pause. I know she was inside the house now and close enough to the door to hold a conversation with me. So, what was the delay? Isabella? Oh, you're sweet to check in. Yes, I know it's open. It's just it has been a whole day today that I wanted to let the breeze in. I'll close it soon. Of course, have a good night then. You too. With that, I tugged Bailey's back down the driveway, and the two of us completed our walk. I returned home happy that my neighbor was alright and went to sleep. Saturday was much needed lazy day. I woke up at 10, ate breakfast that Alicia made, then spent some time in the backyard with her and Bailey. It was overcast day, and by 3 p.m. or so, a light rainfall forced us back inside. Alicia took a call from her sister. We live at the edge of our neighborhood while I went to the living room to throw on some television. Except before I could get comfortable, I looked out the front window and was surprised to see that Isabel's front door was open again. open again, I wonder? Or was it never shut? I got up close to the window and studied the house across the street. The rain was coming down harder by then, and the thick gray clouds overhead made it seem like a nightmare. Despite this, there wasn't a single light inside Isabella's house. It was so dark inside that the entrance to her house seemed like less like a door and more like a black painted rectangle on the exterior wall. I turned to look at Bailey, who was laying on a nearby couch, and saw that she was looking out the window, ears pressed against her head. She glanced at me briefly, then refocused her attention outside. I couldn't tell if she was simply people watching or if somehow she too could sense something was wrong. Just then, Alicia walked into the living room. She was no longer on the phone. She greeted me with a strange, almost nervous smile. That was an odd conversation, she said, taking a seat next to Bailey. Everything alright? I don't know. Clara saw a woman peeking into her house a few nights ago. What? Creepy, right? And she's not the only one. Apparently, there has been a few reports on her side of the town. Other people experienced the same thing. Nothing stolen and no one hurt. At least that's Clara know of. But it's still pretty weird. Let's make sure we lock up extra well tonight. My thought drifted to my neighbor. I asked my wife what this woman looked like. Like I said, Isabella and I weren't close, but I knew she had recently gone through a difficult breakup with a long-time boyfriend. It was far-fetched to assume a connection between Isabella and the mysterious woman. But who knew? Heartbreak makes people do crazy things. Maybe there was some link between the two. Alicia hesitated for a minute. Well, she eventually said, you know, Clara, she's got a real superstition way about her. She's always telling stories. What does that mean? It means you gotta take this with a grain of salt. When Alicia relayed Clara's description of the woman, I felt a chill run down my spine. Clara said that the woman was tall and gaunt, enough so that she originally mistook her for a man. She said that her skin looked too tight across her face, and that her eyes looked unnaturally deep-set, as though they were too far back in her skull. Apparently, she saw that Clara had spotted her. She has given Clara a big smile before retreating into the night. Apparently, when she smiled, she had too many teeth. I was silent for a moment, unsure what to make of Clara's morbid sighting. Love, was Isabella's front door open this morning? She considered my question as she paid Bailey. I think it was. If nothing else, I figured I should at least tell Isabella to be careful. I put on my raincoat and headed outside, carefully making my way down the wet driveway. Once I made it to the sidewalk, I heard a frantic barking coming from behind me. Turning around, I saw Bailey in the window, her paw resting on the sill, her growl and whimper rising on the heavy rain. My wife appeared next to her a few seconds later. She attempted unsuccessfully to comfort Bailey, giving me a questioning look as she did so. I gave her a shrug in return, then crossed the street. I stopped at the bottom of Isabella's porch step and listened. Like before, I could hear someone inside, so I couldn't tell exactly what was going on. I heard a deep, wet, ripping sound, like something being torn. Also, like before, I couldn't see a thing inside the house. A voice called out from the dark interior. Brian. Hello again, I said, only wondering, in retrospect, how How did she know it was me? Sorry to bother you again, but I wanted to tell you something. Would you mind coming out for a minute? Brian, she repeated, a tone almost reprimanding. This isn't a good time. You always seem to be catching me in the middle of a meal. It won't take long, I tried pursuing. When she didn't respond, I climbed up a few steps. Isabella, there has been some suspicious activity around neighborhood recently. I know you like to keep the door open for the breeze, but maybe you ought to keep it shut today. Ow, but I'm so comfortable here on the couch. Why don't you close the door for me? The couch? Wasn't she in the middle of a meal? Even if she was eating on the couch, her voice sounds so close, like she couldn't have been more than a few feet away from me. Was she hiding behind the door? I climbed up the rest of the step, trying to recall the inside of her house from the 2 or 3 times I've been inside. I knew the room immediately to the left of the entryway was the living room, and most likely where Isabella was supposedly sitting. I also knew that there was a light switch right next to the front door. What the hell? I thought. I just go inside for a minute, say hello, and then shut the door for her. It will give me some peace of mind to actually see her instead of just hearing her voice. I glanced over my shoulder toward my own house. Bailey was still barking her head off, which was unnerving. But the sight of Alicia keeping an eye on me gave me some peace of mind. It was just a house, I told myself. Just a normal house with my own neighbor inside of it. Taking a deep breath, I stood at the threshold, shocked at how, despite my closeness, the inside of the house remained pitch black. I pressed the hand inside and it disappeared like dipping into oil. As I groped around for a light switch, my finger brushed against something solid, something fleshy. I jerked my hand back, certain I touched a person. Isabella? I asked the darkness, and then from inches away comes the sound of laughter. The laugh was deep, gravelly, and mocking. It did not resemble my neighbor's voice in the slightest. Before I could react, I heard the quick pitter-patter of a footstep against the wood. It grew quieter and quieter, and I realized it was the sound of someone running away from me. After a few seconds, I thought I heard a door open shut in the distance. The back door, perhaps? Again, I stuck my arm inside, and this time I was able to find the light switch. I turned on the light and was relieved when the interior of the house revealed itself to me. A normal entry with a normal coat rack and normal shoe rack. No eerie intruder in sight. However, the relief was short-lived, because when I stepped inside the house, I turned to the left, walked into the living room, and was greeted by the sight of my neighbor. At least, what was left of her. She was splayed out on top of the couch, her head lolled off to the side. Paralyzed by fear and confusion, I stood in place. I waited to wake up from a nightmare. I waited for Isabella to walk in from the adjusted room and tell me I was looking at a Halloween prop. I waited for a dangerously long time. Then I staggered out into the rain. When I returned home, I immediately called the police. Trouble putting what I have seen into words. They arrived quickly, took my and Alicia's statement, then went across the street to investigate. It has been days now. They haven't told me anything despite of my repeated call to the station. I can't get any answer. I can't sleep, I can't eat. I just keep replaying the discovery over and over in my mind's eye. The voice, the feeling of brushing against the body in the dark, and of course, the sight of the poor girl's mangled crop. I have too many questions to count, but three rise above the rest. Who the hell was I talking to? How did they sound so perfectly like my neighbor? And why is that every night since I found the body, Bailey hasn't stopped sitting by the front door and growling? And that was the conclusion of my neighbor's front door has been open for 2 days. If you enjoyed this one, you'll definitely want to check out my other story. She said the armory was too heavy to move. Now I know why. It's got the same slow burn tension and an ending that will leave you speechless. Don't forget to hit like if the story gives you some chills, and subscribe for more Reddit stories that I post every week. And let me know in the comment what you think Brian was hearing in that house. Bye!